Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to another book chat. Yes, I'm laughing because this is about take seven. I don't know. The words aren't working this morning. I just need more tea. Anyway, as you can see, I'm back on the floor in front of the bookcase. No, the fireplace, even. Wow, definitely need more tea because I've still not worked out where in this house is the best place to do a book chat. Everywhere I go, I've got weird light. I can't sit in front of the bookshelves because then I'm kind of sitting on top of the camera. And so yes, this seems to be about the best. I've only been here a year. Give me another year, maybe I'll figure it out. Anyway, how are things going where you are? I hope you're all keeping safe, looking after yourself, keeping distance where you can. Yeah, and I hope things are going okay and you're coping okay because there's a lot going on in the world right now, which is why we're going to talk a little bit about some escapism. So, as you might remember from some of my other book chats, or if you follow me on social media and that sort of thing, my reading has been very much all over the place, and I found it very hard to concentrate on lots of things. But Gerald Durrell's Corfu trilogy. I spotted this on sale on Amazon, last month, and it was just that's it. That is exactly what I need. When I was a kid, I had the first book in the trilogy, which is My Family and Other Animals, and I read it and reread it and reread it, and I could still see like the orange pan cover with it was a dragonfly photo on the front, and yeah, I loved it. I absolutely read that book to bits. And it's just a lovely read, and there's something very idyllic about it reading it at the moment, and there's also something quite fragile because it's about when Gerald Durrell, who was a zoologist, naturalist from the UK, he and his family moved out to Corfu for a few years, and it was actually between the two wars. So you've just had World War One, there's been a pandemic, and you know that World War Two is on the horizon there, and yet they're in this little bubble, and everything in his world, all the things which are big and important are things like the best way to catch terrapin and how do you keep these various sea creatures alive. I mean, he found seahorses. He's trying to keep these little baby seahorses alive and things like that, and pots in his bedroom. And his family are just freaking out because there's animals everywhere and there's constantly animals escaping, and it's beautiful. And for me, it was just pure escapism. Um, don't read it if you're looking for a story because there's not really a story to it. It is just a collection of anecdotes. It's about the animals he finds. It's about the people he meets who are all these larger than life characters, including his family who are just completely hilarious. All three books are fantastic. For me, My Family and Other Animals is still the best, simply, I think, probably because I know it so well. So rereading it was like, I don't know, your favorite teddy bear. You're just cuddling up to that and being, okay, I feel really safe now. This is really nice. And so that's what that experience was for me. So pure comfort reading. And if you like that sort of thing, again, it's anecdotes rather than stories, but the characters are amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, I remember being quite a wee small thing and trying to explain it to a friend of mine and say, oh, and then there was these magpies, and the magpies got drunk and they trashed this entire party. And she's just there going, never happened. Well, I don't care. It was a great story. It's probably the point at which I realized, yeah, writing was probably a good career for me. Anyway, Gerald Durrell's Corfu trilogy, My Family and Other Animals, Birds, Beasts and Relatives, and I think In the Garden of the Gods. So I don't know the Garden of the Gods. I don't know the other two as well. That's why. But that first one, My Family and Other Animals, beautiful. I would recommend that to anyone who likes reading about animals as much as they do about people. Okay, so on to the next one. Continuing the comfort reading theme, I went for Alexander McCall Smith's Corduroy Mansions. Um, I absolutely adore Alexander McCall Smith's 44 Scotland Street series. I haven't read all of them, but the ones I have read have just been so lovely. They're kind of little stories just about the life, snapshots of the lives of the people that live at 44 Scotland Street. And they're all a bit eccentric and they're all a bit weird and they're just beautiful. And it's all wound about with this lovely, gentle sort of philosophy. And it's fantastic. Obviously, he also wrote Number One Ladies Detective Agency, which I've read a few of. I like them. I'm not as invested in them. And he's also got the Sunday Philosophy Club, which I did not like. And I mean, I didn't hate it, but I was just about, yeah. And what was the other one? There is another one of this sort of quite. I've only read one of them, and it was some professor who went to South America, and it was very, very bonkers, but it was very good. Anyway, he's a beautiful writer, and his characters are always interesting. This, I didn't mind it. It's sort of there with the Number One Ladies Detective Agency for me, where I'll read them, but I'm probably not going to search them out. What I found really odd is there seemed to be this whole setup at one point going on with one of the characters who was just this awful, awful person, and both his wife was no sorry his mother was writing a memoir about how awful it was to bring him up, and his girlfriend had just dumped him, and he had just fired his secretary, who it all just seemed as if they were going to do something together to sort of take revenge on this awful, awful man, or expose him for how awful he was, and nothing happened. And so it was a little bit, when it finished, I was kind of like, I need to get the next book to find out. I don't know. Anyway, nice read. He's always a nice read. That's the thing. You can always enjoy it and always kind of lose yourself in it. But for me, not one of his best. Okay. Diana Wynne Jones. I only read Howl's Moving Castle last year, and it was amazing and fantastic, and I loved it to bits. And I couldn't believe it had taken me so long to discover her. Okay, so Charmed Life. Absolutely loved it. Read it in, I don't know, a few hours or something, sitting in the garden in the sun. It was very nice. And yes, middle grade novel. It's about two young orphans, brother and sister. The older sister, she's a very, very talented witch, and she knows she's a talented witch. And this is in a parallel world to ours, essentially, where that's accepted. There are witches and warlocks and enchanters and all sorts of things. And so she's going to be the best witch in the world. And it's all told from the point of view of her little brother. And as the story unfolds, they're taken in by this Crestomancy, who's the guy in the fantastic dressing gowns. He has amazing robes. That's like one of the best things in the story. They're all amazing robes. And as the story unfolds, because it seems that her little brother has no magic, it all starts changing, and you start to see where this very small boy who thinks he's nothing special turns out to be very special indeed. But it's very nicely done. It's not kind of like a chosen one thing. So yeah, lovely, lovely, fun read. Lots of humour, lots of bizarre circumstances, lots of magic. Very much enjoyed it. So from then I went straight into the next book in the series, which was The Magicians of Caprona, which just cracked me up, because it's straight away you go, as soon as you start reading it, you're like, Romeo and Juliet, which I was a bit worried about, because I was like, it's not going to be a romance, is he? But it wasn't. It was another lovely one about friendship, about discovering power when you think you're powerless, which both of those books are, and also talking cats. Fantastic. So yes, absolutely brilliant. Again, lots of humour. Really enjoyed it. Maybe not as much as the first one, but definitely going to keep going in the series. And that's it. That's shocking. No, it's not, because yes, I reread all the Beaufort Scales books, because Gobelino 3 is going to be coming out in August, and then the next book after that is going to be the 5th Beaufort Scales book. So I've been rereading all the old Beaufort Scales to remind me of all the characters, and it's very bizarre rereading your own writing. I mean, because normally I reread it as in, I'm looking for typos, I'm looking for bits of inconsistencies, which I sometimes find and quite often don't. So trying to read it as a reader was very, very different, and it was quite fun. It was quite fun to rediscover the characters and remember the village and get reacquainted with it. So I'm really excited to be getting back into that as well. Because quite a few people have sort of been asking, are we going to get more Beaufort books? And yes, definitely. It's really important for me that I don't overdo it, kind of thing. I don't want them to become formulaic. I don't want to start just sort of rewriting the same thing. So there will be breaks between them. But my plan, sort of in the years ahead is to make sure there's a new Beaufort book every year, for as long as I can have fresh ideas and fresh stories for him. Because yeah, I don't want to. I that sounds such a cocky thing to say about my own stories, but I love the characters so much that I don't want to let them down by not giving them the best story I can. So the Beaufort books won't come as quickly as they did do, but they will still come out. And there will definitely be another Gobelino, at least probably more than just another Gobelino after this one, because he is also fantastic fun to write. Because snarky cats are always fantastic fun. And that is it for this month. That was my reading. Yes, not a lot, but you know, I will claim I have read my own books, and there were 3 books in the Corfu trilogy. 3. So let me know below. How are you doing? Have you been reading? What have you been reading? Have you been finding you're going back to comfort reads, or have you been finding that you're looking for real sort of escapism, lots of fantasy, sci-fi things in completely other worlds? Yeah, let me know what your favourite reads of the month have been. And yes, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening and watching, and sorry about the weird changing light. I will figure all this out at some stage. I'm sure I should probably just draw the curtains and put a light on would be sensible, but yeah, sun. All right, look after yourselves, lovely people. Stay safe.